I'm wondering if you might share a little bit about, James, you mentioned this was a process, and you all nodded, I noticed. What helped you through the process? Were there people? What are the things that kind of got you through? And I know we've talked a little bit about this.
Yeah. I think for me, I hit a place where I was at my lowest point, and it was what I described earlier, being in the closet with this gun and sort of thinking that nothing was ever going to get better. And, weeks go by, months begin to go by, and slowly, things begin to shift. It's small things at first. Part of it was this person not being around as much, right? So now I'm left to my own devices, and, I have time to contemplate and think about other things. And I think the thing for me that really helped the most was finding a place that I could go to outside of what was happening to me after school. And it's kind of interesting because I think a lot of the things that I have now are a direct result of this in terms of my work ethic and everything. So when you're at this place where, you have nothing, and for me at that time too, you have to remember, I met the person who exploited me, in a church and through the Boy Scouts. So for me, I don't want anything to do with church or God or anybody because I'm blaming all of that on everything that happened to me on those institutions. And so, I always loved football. Jerry Rice was my hero growing up. I was a San Francisco 49ers fan. And so, I wander onto this football field and then onto the wrestling mat. And I end up just spending all my free time to the extent that I can in that space. And, I go through multiple practices a day, right? And I'm just running as hard as I can. I'm working as hard as I can. And I just got really lucky with a really amazing coach who had no idea what was happening to me. But he was there. And I think one of the things that I learned from him was that, you control how well you're going to do in this sport, the sport of wrestling, right? Because it's just you and this other kid out there on the mat. And if you're willing to work harder than him, you can beat them, right? So I got it in my head that, no matter what happened, I was just going to work harder than everybody else, and I was going to throw myself into this. And, it was through that process and sort of slowly beginning to be away from my exploiter that, I began to find more worth, in school and in sports. And I think, and it was a really tough thing for me. So the other thing I should say is that, when you're 13 and you go through this, right, and then all of a sudden, you move back in with your parents and you're 16 years old and you're back in high school and you're trying to associate yourself again with kids your age, it's such a difficult thing to do, right? I've missed out on 2 years of socialization, right? And so being able to connect with girls, with other boys my age, it was just so foreign. I heard Oprah Winfrey, she talked about this in her interview with Barbara Walters many years ago. And, she said how she wept for the lost innocence. For those that don't know, Oprah went from her 5th grade year, for 6th grade year, almost a full year, thinking that she was pregnant because she was raped by an older cousin. And she says, you're never the same again after that. And you're not. How could you be? Your innocence is gone. You've been exploited. You've been your eyes are open to the terrible things that exist in this world. And so many other kids can't relate to that. They don't understand that. And so for me, having this place that I could go to, helped me begin to transition back. And, eventually I was able to cut off all contact with this person by the end of my junior year in high school. And I'm really thankful because, I was lucky, in many ways because, by the time I was 17, going into my senior year in high school, I basically got reacclimated. I got to be captain of my football team and captain of my wrestling team. And I was, dating a girl in my high school. And, everything my senior year sort of came together in a very beautiful way that I wouldn't have anticipated or nobody would have thought of if you would have seen me just a few years prior. But it was, I think, the culmination of all of those things and just one person, showing an interest in teaching me that, I was more than what everybody else was telling me I was, and just showing belief. I mean, the power that people have when they show kids that they care is really incredible. So don't ever, discount that. Whether you're a big brother, big sister with big brothers, I mean, mentors are so important to kids, and it really can change a child's life. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that happened with me.
Thank you.